We're on the prowl.
Welcome to On the Prowl. I'm Kevin Whitaker, Executive Editor for Sports, here with fellow sports editor Eric Levenson, who's rocking a little more facial hair than the last time you saw him. We're going to mix it up a little bit and do some debating here, maybe a little PTI style with On the Prowl. So let's get to our first topic.
So our first topic is going to be goalie switching. And on Tuesday, the men's soccer team took out their goalkeeper Max Gallen for Seth McMillan. It was a non-conference game, so it was just to test it out. But did that erode? Do you think that eroded confidence in Max at all, or what do you think about goalie switches in general?
I mean, coaches like to see what they have. It's hard to find playing time for all sorts of players when you're into league season. So with the midweek, these non-conference games in a lot of sports, coaches like to sort of see what they have. But that being said, Max Gallen, this is his first season as Princeton's full-time starter. You'd like to see him get as many opportunities as possible, and he's statistically been among the worst goalies in the Ivy League as far as save percentage and goals allowed so far this season. So you have to wonder if maybe he'd like a little more work in there.
And Seth allowed 3 goals against Seton Hall, and Max allowed 3 goals against Brown this weekend in a 3-2 overtime loss. Also on the women's soccer team, Claire Pianciaro has been starting the season as Kristen Watson comes back from an injury, and they inserted her in the lineup yesterday, and she allowed 2 goals. So
Watson actually was in against Dartmouth the week before that too. But the main problem for the women's team really has not been allowing goals. Women's team, I don't believe they've allowed more than 2 goals in a game in a long time. It's been converting chances, which they've had many of, into goals which they have not.
Still, though, taking out the goalie is kind of like, it's almost like a quarterback. It's like a safe position in soccer, and you think maybe it has some kind of effect on the team morale, or it switches things up. It's the leader of the team, and I don't think you can really take that out.
Even more so than morale, just communication. The goalie's the one in charge of everything on defense. Like at set pieces, that was Princeton's problem, the men's team, in the final 2 goals. TJ Papalizio scored 82nd minute off a free kick, and overtime also off a free kick. So again, it's not something you can ever say for sure, but you can sort of wonder if that communication needs to be improved.
Sure. One other topic I want to look at is the football team. They had a lot of red zone chances in a 28-23 loss to Hampton this weekend. They ended up at 6 times in the red zone, 4 field goals, an interception, and turnover on downs on the last possession of the game. So, what's the way to fix the red zone offense? What do you do to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, 1 for 7 on red zone chances is not something you want in terms of touchdowns if you're Princeton. Princeton's ground game has been improved. That's something you've definitely seen that's been their biggest strength this season. Brian Mills ran for over 100 yards against Columbia. Chuck DeBellio 147 this week. But something I think Coach Bob Serace said in the post-game press conference was it's harder to run the ball in the red zone because the safeties can sheet up. They'd only have to cover so much ground. You're all of a sudden running against maybe an 8 or 9 man front instead of 7.
Yeah, especially if you're running some kind of spread offense designed to stretch the field. That field sure shrinks in the last 20 yards close to the end zone.
Exactly. So the onus then falls on quarterback Tommy Warren to show that he can make plays with his arm in the red zone. Something I think he showed in the first 5 games last season when he was sort of tasked with doing more on the offensive end. You'd like to see him get back to that level as Princeton's defense has stepped up considerably from last year. It's been really night and day. Yeah. But the offense sort of hasn't kept pace, hasn't improved like Coach Serace would like it to.
Sure. And women's volleyball team, took this weekend, went to Columbia and lost there 3-0, and then split the series and beat Cornell 3-1. Lydia Rudnick and Catherine Quinn both played, had all the hits around the net like they usually do. Kevin, what did you think of their performance?
They did. The first Ivy League road trip, ended not quite as well as they would have hoped. Cornell in the basement of the Ivy League, not projected to be a strong contender. Cornell actually was down 2-0, then took the third game 25-23, was tied 23 all in the 4th. That's really Princeton sort of letting a team hang around, which has been a problem a little bit this season, as we've seen a lot of those 5-set games here in Dillon Gymnasium.
Yeah, so this weekend they'll play Yale, who's the only undefeated team in the Ivy League, so could be a big game at Dillon Gym this weekend.
That will be a big game, absolutely. Also look this week for a feature of head coach Sabrina King, 2001 graduate of Princeton, a great player here when she was at Princeton. This is her first year as a head coach.
Sure.
So that on Thursday, I believe.
All right, great. Well, I hope you look forward to this week's articles, and I'm Eric, this is Kevin, and we're signing off. You've been on the Prowl.